Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast, and excited once again for another amazing guest. And let me introduce you to him right now. As a member of Team Paul Mitchell Martial Arts, Samuel Diaz is one of the most dominant competitors on today's circuit. The Shotokan Karate practitioner has competed internationally, claiming titles in South Africa, Europe, Central and North America's, most recently, the 2023 Senior Overall Grand Championship at the U.S. Open in Orlando, Florida. Built upon a foundation of leading with love, Samuel has a passion for inspiring others to let their karate come from the heart on their journey of self-discovery through martial arts. Samuel is proud father, organizational leader in the field of community healthcare, co-owner of Stratford Shotokan Karate in Stratford, Connecticut, and moonlights as a musician. Samuel, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I know this has been a long time coming, and it's great to be able to join you here. Followed you for a while, so.
Well, thank you. It has been a long time coming, as most people that have been following this show know that I booked out the entire year of 2023 in advance on Mondays, and then I said, well, I have so many more people I got to get on here, so I went back and I started booking out every Wednesday, and now here we are booked out for the entire 2023 on Wednesdays. So I'm starting to add some more on Friday. So look forward to some amazing guests coming up. But I'm super happy to have you here on the show. My first interaction with you was at the Martial Arts Super Show just a couple of years ago. I had watched you and the rest of the team perform, and I've always been in awe of Team Paul Mitchell just because of the caliber of talent that's on the team, past and present. But I watched you perform, and I loved the traditional presence that you carry. Listen, I love all the extreme. I love all of it, because super talented competitors. But I just really loved your style in particular. So I had to have you on the show, and I've had a couple of your teammates on as well. Most recently, Haley Glass, and coming up, we got Alex Mencias. So,
nice.
Man, that was super impressive. So I'm happy to have you on the show. And really what I'd love to do is allow you to tell your story. And from reading your bio and learning a little bit more about you a little bit at a time, I think you've got some great information to share with everybody today. So the first thing I want you to share, if you can, is just kind of talk about your childhood and growing up and, your life as a young man, family, parents, and so on.
Okay, so I grew up in Connecticut. Kind of split time between Connecticut and the Bronx for training, actually. So I started in the martial arts when I was 2.5 years old. My mother was able to find a dojo in Bridgeport, Connecticut, with the instructor at that time, Matty Malisi. That was my first sensei, and he took me in. He didn't really know what to expect at that time, considering a 2.5-year-old, but he was gracious enough to do that, and that really laid the platform, the foundation for me moving forward in everything that I did. Let that be, going into baseball, soccer, whatever other sports, or music, as the bio said, moonlighting as a musician. But I had wonderful support from my parents. They were strict on me, especially my father. My dad, military background, so he was a play no games kind of person. But that's really what's needed. I'm grateful for that. And then my mother, my mom was also strict, play no games. She showed love, but also no, don't get out of line. But they made the impact on me in terms of following through with what you start. Whatever you're going to begin, you have to follow through with it, and understanding the characteristics of discipline, understanding characteristics of accountability and responsibility at a young age. I think that definitely has helped me throughout life to just be successful in the things that I choose to kind of dabble in, and then also now pass that on to my son.
Well, 2.5 years old, not a lot of people start at 2.5. And I always like to kind of brag on my kids because they started at 2.5. But of course, being a martial arts school owner, it was like, I couldn't wait to get them on the mat. Now, were your parents martial artists, or why did they want to get you involved in martial arts at the very beginning of your life?
Yeah, so no, they weren't.
Interesting.
It was really Ninja Turtles that got me into it. I was I dove into that, really took to it. Kept telling my mom, I want to do karate. I want to do karate. And I didn't really know what karate was outside of a cartoon,
Right.
but she was able to find that dojo for me, and then I actually got my father into it. So
Okay.
my father now teaches with me at the dojo at Stratford Shotokan, and then also my brother. So it was pretty cool to how it came full circle. My dad doesn't like to tell people that I got him into it, but sometimes when him and I are razzing back and forth, I'm like, technically I have like 2 years on you. So
That's awesome. And for a lot of martial artists, it's the other way around. Dad or mom, parents are martial artists. They get
yeah.
their kids into it. You must have been a very convincing 2.5-year-old, and you must have really loved the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I definitely really love. I still really love the Ninja Turtles. I have it in my man cave at the house in my basement. I have Ninja Turtle everything. So, it's still a love of mine. But really, really at that time, I was a super hyper kid, and my parents knew that I was very hyper. I was very strong minded, and then physically strong. So they needed a way to kind of like get me to pull it all together.
Hmm.
And at that time there wasn't many options because I, like, as I said, I ended up playing baseball, but t-ball, you can't start that till you're like 5.
Right.
So there wasn't many options, and karate ended up being a godsend that I was stuck with it for so long now.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's funny. Talk about Ninja Turtles because we always talk when I have different guests on the show. You got the Bruce Lee era. My era was the Karate Kid era. Then you got the Ninja
Okay.
Turtles. Then you had the Power Rangers, and it's
Yep.
our current black belt team. We have a group of students that are testing together, and we always pick a team name for their training period towards black belt, and they chose the Ninja Turtles. I was like,
Okay,
interesting,
cool,
right? Like,
cool.
so the
Well,
Ninja
it's
Turtles
it's about to
still.
drop in this. It's gonna drop in the theaters soon.
Yep.
I think it's next month. There's like a new cartoon version coming out. So
That's right. That's right. It's amazing how it and with Karate Kid, how the martial arts has transcended, through Cobra Kai,
yeah,
Bruce Lee
yeah.
that they redone and had some movies, Bruce Lee. It's just so amazing the impact that martial arts has had in our communities, in our lives, in the world, right? For just from these simple movies that came up. So you started at two and
Another movie for me, since we're talking about it. Sorry to cut you off,
that's okay.
but another impactful movie for me was The Last Dragon. That was like the movie for me.
Hmm.
But I saw The Last Dragon before I ever saw Enter the Dragon. I kind of knew Bruce Lee, but to me it was Bruce Leroy, and like so Last Dragon was definitely a very impactful movie, along with all the Sho Kosugi, Return of the Ninja, Pray for
Oh
Death.
yeah. Good
Those
stuff.
were like those are my. I still watch them now with my son, and he will like his mom's amazed because he'll sit there with me on my lap and will not move. He's just like locked into it. So
I had posters on my wall of Sho Kosugi when I was younger. I mean, I was so like all of us were like so into ninjas, and so that was really cool. And you grew up you spent some time in the Bronx, right? And if I remember
yes,
correctly, The
sir.
Last Dragon,
Yes, sir.
part of what was the movie not based out of the
Yep,
Bronx?
Harlem go. Yes, it was based out of Harlem. It was actually filmed at the Harlem Goju Dojo, which is a very famous dojo. Harlem Goju. They have a lot of strong competitors that have come out of that dojo. Strong practitioners. That's the lineage. That's the lineage I grew up through with Bronx martial arts in general. My instructor. So as I said, I started out with Manny Malisi in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Then from there, I went on to his instructor, who is Sensei Earl Bennett in the Bronx, New York, and that's where I've been ever since. That's who has brought me up, who has given me the tricks to the trade in a way. I've tried to evolve them on my own, but then he's the one that kind of gave me that foundation, the strong foundation of when you step in the dojo, it's about no games. We're not there talking, stretch, shut up, stretch, and let's get to work. That's really what it's about. So
Shut up and train.
yes,
Yeah,
sir. Yes, sir.
I keep going back to this Last Dragon thing. I did, as you probably saw in the video, I was in professional wrestling for several years and always been a professional wrestling fan. One of my favorite um, adversaries, one of my favorite opponents in the ring was a guy named Jimmy Mayhem, and Jimmy Mayhem's character was the whole show enough character, right? So he had the
Wow.
whole
Okay.
get
Cool.
up.
Cool.
He had the big fro, the glasses. He had his thugs with him. I always thought that was so cool. And actually, he was able to participate in a match against Tamok. Is that who played Bruce Leroy? Froze up on me a little bit there. There you go. You back? There you go, sir. Are you back?
Hey, there we go. Sorry. I have all my bars here. I don't know what
That's
happened.
okay.
I'm very sorry.
It froze up for a second. So I was talking about this match with this Jimmy Mayhem character who was the Shonuff persona, but I actually got to see him have a match with the person that played Bruce Leroy. Was his name Tamok?
Yes, yeah, Tamak.
So
Yeah.
Tamok. So he came to Simi Valley, California, my backyard here, and they had a match. I just thought that was the coolest thing, just to kind of tie that Last Dragon and professional wrestling all together, and that Bronx gym
awesome.
that you trained at. So yeah, it was really neat.
So
As a matter of fact, you could probably find that match on YouTube. Tamok and Jim versus Jimmy Mayhem. I'll send you a link if I can find it, because you'll love it, right?
I'm gonna check it out. Yeah,
so
that'll be great.
So, guys, if you're watching here live, by the way, please feel free to let us know that you're here. If you have questions, throw some comments up, share the video, let everybody jump in and watch this with us today. But we've been talking a little bit about Sam Diaz and his starting martial arts at 2.5 years old, coming from a family of strict disciplinarian parents, which you mentioned that really aided you in your success with martial arts and life as well. What else can you remember from a young age that your parents were very adamant about? What were some other characteristics or life lessons that you remember coming from your parents?
So I would say the biggest piece, is the responsibility, accountability. I had my chores around the house. I had my duties that I would have to carry out on a weekly basis. And in that space, my parents made it very clear to me that, we are here to love you. We are here to Marvin Joza. I love Bruce Lee. Yes. So we're here to love you. We are here to help you grow and help you be successful. But we are your parents. We can be a friend, we can be that shoulder, but there was a very strong divide between they were not trying to be my friend. They were my mother and they were my father. And at that time, I didn't really understand it, but now I appreciate it. And then moving forward from there, they also taught me the value in hard work, not only value that will come from it through like character development. One of the sayings forever that is ingrained in my head, and I will soon be saying it to my son: hard work builds character. My dad just kept drilling that in me growing up all the time. But at the same time, he said, your time is valuable. So when you're doing this work, yeah, we're here, we're your parents, we're going to provide, this is your home. But, I had chores. I also got an allowance. My job was to go to school. Literally, my parents were like, our job is to go to work. Your job is to go to school, get good grades. But then at the end of every marking period or every semester, I would be rewarded for producing within school. So what that did teach me at that time is I got the fiscal management, so understanding how to manage money, understanding how to save, how to invest, and then also understanding very early that like when you work, you should, you're going to do things to volunteer, you're going to do things to give back to your community, you're going to do things out of love for people to help them, but then also there is work that you'll do that you should be paid for. Your time is valuable, which is something that now in the fields that I'm in, I'm glad that I'm able to differentiate between the two, to understand where's my purpose to give, where's my purpose to volunteer, and then what are going to be my jobs that will be revenue generating sources to produce for my family, to pay my bills, to pay for the dojo. I have to have that divide, because I think sometimes I love my saying is, lead with love. And Karate from the Heart has been a tagline that we can maybe talk about a little bit later, that has kind of over the past 2 years, like right before joining Team Paul Mitchell, that caught fire and helped a lot of people. But in that space of leading with love and letting my karate come from the heart, I needed to understand that you do have to pay your bills, Sam. Like I would love to teach karate forever. and have it be something that I do and not have to worry about a bill ever, but you do have to be paid for your time. So
That's right.
so we have that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love everything that you're saying so far, and I'm taking a ton of notes already. And one of the things that stuck out in the beginning when you started talking about, your parents made it very clear that they were your parents and not your friends. As a martial arts instructor, especially in our, the world we live in today, right? Society has shifted quite a bit, and we find that parents really work so hard to be their kids' friends, right? And
Mhm.
and that doesn't always work out. That always produce children that understand everything that you're talking about. So, in your experience as a martial arts instructor, have you come across this where you have a hard time, working with kids because you see that the parents have treated them more like friends than they are their children?
I would say, yeah, yeah. Like most martial arts instructors, my school, I have a wonderful. I've been blessed to have a great group of families here at the dojo who support the mission that we have,
Hmm.
which is to create contributing members to our community through martial arts. And I've had some that have come in that you have that blurred line between friend and parent, and they're looking towards myself to be more of the disciplinarian
Hmm.
um, for the child. And it's a conversation that we have very early on when someone chooses to sign up. Is my first question to them is, have you looked elsewhere? And when they say no, I give them a list of all the other schools in the area, and I'm like, please go visit all the other dojos first, and if you choose to come back, great. If you choose not to, by all means, I wish you the best on your journey. But the reason I do that is because I want them to understand that this is a partnership where we are focused on that child and all the children of the dojo. So, when we're here, the reason I emphasize all the children of the dojo is because my responsibility is to all of them, not just one over the other. Everybody's paying the same tuition rate. And even if you were paying more, that doesn't mean I'm going to give your kid extra
Hmm.
time. No, we have to focus on everyone's development and how they're going to feed off of each other. Because as we know, as little young men, little young ladies, they're impressionable. So, what is it that we want to impart on them? What is it that we're trying to push? And that's a group effort. It takes a village. And then in that space, I also make it very clear that I'm here to reinforce what is being done at home, and then vice versa. The
Hmm.
skills that we're giving that child, the cornerstones that we're trying to build on them, let it be respect, discipline, personal space, self-defense, whatever it is for that child. I'm giving you the pieces here. I need it to be reinforced at home, because at the end of the day, at most, I'm with this kid 6 hours a week, maybe. If
Hmm.
they train 3 days a week, 2 hours a clip, meaning that they came to both classes 3 days a week. 6 hours is nothing compared to
Right.
the 127 hours that you're going to be with them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely
um
a
yeah.
smaller percentage of time. But here's what I love. I love that you take the time to really build that culture in the school and really put that out there that, this is the expectation. This is how we function as a school. And I think when you start laying those ground rules, right off the bat, I mean, one of the things that, we say, just something that's very simple, is that we don't allow coaching from the chairs, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
we have to tell them that, because I have seen from experience what soccer and baseball and all these other sports, because what you allow, right? If you allow it, then they're just going to keep doing it, right? So if we
Absolutely,
let them know from the
absolutely.
beginning, hey, listen, let's leave all the instruction to the instructors teaching class, and afterwards, your praise is going to be the most important thing to them, and we can talk about different coaching tips
Absolutely.
and stuff. And we got some great
Yeah,
coaches watching right
yeah.
now. So thank you, Joey Perry. We had a great conversation just yesterday. So thanks for joining us. And
Joey's
Jeff
awesome.
Jeff Doss is coming up on the show. So looking forward to having him.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. And Marvin Jones, thank you for watching on YouTube as
Yes.
well. Guys, keep commenting. And
No.
if you got any questions, let us know. Please share the video so that everybody else can get a chance to see this. But we're
It's
talking.
interesting when you speak of sideline coaching. There's a quote that I have. So in the space where I meet with my
Uh-huh.
parents, I have a quote above the window that is looking into one of the training areas. So the way my dojo is set up, I have two separate training areas. One's enclosed. That's typically where I have my tiny tigers at, and then the other is the open space. Like when you first walk into the dojo, you're walking into the main area, and above that window, I have a quote up there that says, "Kids don't quit, parents do." And that's part of the conversation that I have with the parents.
Man,
I
that's
have that
bold.
conversation, and it's a tough one, absolutely. But I'd rather be as transparent as possible with you right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the parents that are here, they appreciate that and they understand it. Some of them don't get it up front, but they get it over time that there's going to be those days that your child's not going to want to come, as we all
Mm-hmm.
know. There's going to
Mm-hmm.
be the days where they're struggling because they rather stay in the pool, especially right now, summertime. For me today, I have to get my work and I gotta check in with the team. But it's 93 degrees, I believe, outside right now. And I'm gonna put my hoodie on, go for a run, do a field workout. But that comes through discipline over time. That comes through discipline over time because my parents didn't allow me to quit. They
Mm-hmm.
forced me. They said, this is what it is that you chose to do, and now you follow through on your responsibility. You have to hold yourself accountable. And
Right.
that's part of that conversation that we have at the beginning. And it's a bold quote, but at the same time, it's very transparent and it sets the tone for the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you were talking, hard work builds character. You quoted that
That's right.
earlier, and so getting out in that 93-degree weather may not be what you want to do, but it's not always what you want to do. It's what you need to do to continue to be
Absolutely.
successful. I love that you spend that time with your parents because it's important as coaches, as instructors, as teachers, as parents that we build that culture. And like you said, over time, right? These may be bold statements, to hear that, you know, kids don't quit, parents do. To say that right up front, parents are looking at you like, man, like that's right in my face. But over time, they really do start to get it. They start to understand. Same thing when you tell people that martial arts is not necessarily just another sport, it's a lifestyle. They don't get that at first.
Absolutely.
They don't understand that because they're just brand new. Like, some people are just coming in to check it out and see what it's all about. It's over time that we
Yeah.
build these life skills and this character education, and it goes much further and way beyond, the physical aspect of what we teach. Now, something else
That's
you
right.
said that was, I think, amazing, and what I love hearing from other martial arts schools is you spend time giving back to the community. Talk about some of the
Yes, sir.
things that you do to give back to the community, and tell me why or where did you develop this desire to give back to your community?
My my finding my purpose in volunteering for my community has been something that was an intersection between my career, my my 9 to 5 career,
Hmm.
and my martial arts career. That intersection was found through. So for those that don't know, my 9 to 5, I work in the field of community healthcare. So I am organizational leader. I'm a chief strategy officer for a community health center in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And in that space, I've been able to interact with many different families from around the greater Bridgeport area, Fairfield County area, all socio-demographic levels, and really see the common threads there within the families, see the common threads within the children, and then through the martial arts and what we do naturally in each of our respective karate schools. You have all different people walking through that door. We never know what's going on at home. We never know what's going on for that child at home or for that parent at home and what is bringing them there for that day. So when it comes to community service, I have a twofold on my community service. The foundational side for the martial arts is always giving back through stranger danger sessions where I
Hmm.
partner with my local authorities. So, police officers, fire department, EMTs. That those programs are typically, I do those twice. I try to do them twice a year, where we have all the trucks parked in our parking lot out front. So there's a touch truck event that takes place afterwards.
Hmm.
But this is more for the children to get familiar with our civil service leaders, for them to understand that these are our friends, these are people that we can turn to, these are people that are here to help us, and then also gain valuable skills. So typically the sessions are broken down into 2 age groups. So we have that 6 and under, and then we have that 7 to 12 range, and the leaders that are coming in are speaking to different topic points that are age appropriate. So that's one version of a community service event that we do. Then I also do our active anti-bullying self-defense sessions, and those are either hosted at the dojo. So like, for example, like many other schools, during the month of May, we'll do women's self-defense every Saturday for free. Then, for Father's Day, typically we have our, daddy and me classes where the dads are training together. But then I also offer sessions where the dads can come and work out with me on their own.
Hmm.
And those sessions typically, because a lot of the dads will see me, or a lot of the parents in general, but the dads will pull me aside like, man, I saw you running the other day in Milford. That's like 2 towns over from me. And they're like, you're nuts. And I'm like, hey, if you ever want to join, let's do it. So
Yeah.
there's days that I'll do workouts here, have them come in for free just to start building some healthy lifestyle habits, but then also to give them an outlet to release. Some parents, I've had dads come before, they're like, hey, can I just go hit the bag? Because I'm going through some stuff and I just need to release it. And while their kids training in the other room, they're just pounding a bag. And I'm like, yeah, go ahead, do your thing. And then from there, that opens up lines of communication for us to just talk about
Hmm.
what's happening in life. How can the dojo be of assistance to them? So that's more of an intimate kind of community service that I'm doing.
Hmm.
And then on the healthcare side that really took off during COVID. I was with along with my team and a couple of other leaders from the health center. We were one of the first community health centers to offer free testing to our community, and free testing, identification free, insurance free. So meaning that they did not have to show their ID in order to receive the test. A lot of the testing centers were requiring identification, but for the community that we are serving, we have a lot of people in our community who are either undocumented or, for whatever reason, rather not show an ID to receive their test, but they were hitting those barriers to receive that test. So we were able to get funding so that way we can offer the testing at that time to the community. That has now unfolded even more for the community service through community health fair events, community education events, whether it be topic based, topic specific, depending on the month, or community health education events that are more general, just general wellness, general preventative healthcare tips for children, for families. How can those within that 25 to 39 age bracket begin to get things in order to take care of their parents as their parents are coming into the later stages of their life? That's a
Hmm.
big one right now. So yeah, my range of community service kind of encompasses not only the martial arts but also the healthcare side, and I
Right.
try to have that intersection be the place where I found my purpose.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, it's a great way to tie in the two together and serve your community at the same time. It's amazing. Great
Yes,
job.
sir.
So tell me, how did you get obviously you were into competition before you started with Team Paul Mitchell. So tell me about, coming up in the martial arts. How did you get started in competition? And then lead me into how you became a member of Team Paul Mitchell.
Okay, so I started competing. I competed for a short stint when I was about my first competition. I was about 6. It was funny. It was a tournament called like the Valley Karate Championships. Very cliche for Karate Kid and stuff.
Right.
But
Not
at that
the
time,
All
I
Valley.
ended up, yeah, not the All Valley. This was just the Valley. But yeah, we at that time, that first competition, I didn't really understand what it was. I just got signed up to do this thing, and I ended up tying. Now understanding competition more, I realized what took place that day was that I tied for first place, and I had to re-perform my form, and I didn't understand that. So I just walked in, bowed, and walked out. So I automatically kind of disqualified myself, and the other kid took
Mm,
first. And then afterwards, someone kind of explained it, but I didn't get it still. But that started the bug to understand that I can go against other people doing this karate thing, and someone will win and someone will come in second or third place. I'm not going to say somebody's going to lose because they're going to learn, but someone will come in first place, someone will come in second and third, and then I can keep testing myself at different levels. So I did that all the way until I was about 12, and then I pulled back because I got heavy into baseball. I was going into high school. I was an avid baseball player and I had a little bit of talent. So I wanted to explore what that was. I ended up going into college, played freshman year ball, then stopped, grades dropped. So dad was saying, you're never going to make it to the pros. So like focus on school. I was like, all right, cool. But at that time, I never stopped training martial arts.
mhm.
My karate kind of stayed all the way through. I just wasn't active in competing. I would just train at the dojo. So at that time, at the college I was at, Southern Connecticut State University, they had a university martial arts team. So one day I was training, and someone walking by that was on the team saw me training in what is their dojo, but it's really a dance studio. I was just working out in there because they had mirrors, so I needed something to look at myself in while I'm training.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me if I wanted to join. I was like, sure. And then that kind of like sprung it all because that got me back into competing. I started competing on the university circuit against other colleges representing our school, and then from there started doing open competition. The big splash was that at that time, my first open tournament, I went straight into like the adult black belt division because I had just tested for my black belt that summer. So that's another caveat in my martial arts journey, was that like I started at 2.5. I topped out, so to say, in terms of belt ranking when I was like 11. I hit it's NIKU, which is your first level brown belt.
Mm-hmm.
So I topped out there, and I couldn't test for Shodan until I was 16, 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a long time of just training, just to train because you loved it and not receiving that reward, so to say, which is a
Mm-hmm.
lot different than today. When I talk with other instructors, they're like, I don't know if I would be able to keep a kid from the time they're 10, 11
Right.
years old till they're 17 and not give them a belt in 7 years. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it was okay. It was what it was. So jumping into open competition at 18 years old and a black belt for the first time was an eye-opening experience. I think my first fight, I didn't know who the person was then, but I know who they are now. I think my first fight was against Troy Binns at Twin Towers Classic, and he just spanked me, man. His leg was all over the place. He was quick, it was, and I was just like, man, this is a lot different than sparring in the dojo. And especially that I grew up sparring more traditional kumite versus open point sparring.
Right.
So that traditional kumite is a slower pace, but we're hitting hard still, but I'm focusing on that reverse punch, that front leg side kick, but like one hard side kick, not multiple side kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Or focusing on trying to sweep the person and grab them, sweep them, throw them. So that was really where my training was. So I had to really switch things up. And before I got picked up on my first sponsored team ever, it took 10 years for me to get onto a team, period. And that first pickup was with Coach Mike Conroy, and there was a local team, Al Gambardella, who picked me up on the local circuit. But the first national team that picked me up was with Coach Mike Conroy, and with him, that started to open up a lot of doors because we were at Hayabusa, and then that gave me more exposure. He was training me a lot more, and then from there, it eventually grew into with Team Paul Mitchell. It went from with Conroy. I followed Coach Conroy through multiple teams, so he was on Full Circle, he was on Hayabusa, he was with KTOC. But then from me separating with Team KTOC, then that's when Team Paul Mitchell opportunity came about, and it's been a blessing. And it was a team that I always looked up to, and I actually had I have a paper, it's to my right now, that was just a little quote that I would say to myself in terms of working hard and staying focused on the goals. And one of the goals on that team was there was a Team Paul Mitchell logo that was on that paper. And every day when I geed up at the dojo, I looked up at that, boom, let's get to work. And that was 8-9 years of looking at that paper to then finally receive an opportunity to be on the team. It's a dream come true. And it's only helped me to elevate, the camaraderie that I have with all my teammates, the way that we push each other. Our threads are crazy with the workouts that we have going on, and the push that we have and the motivation that we have all helped to kind of build within each other. Because obviously everyone was offered that opportunity to join the team because of a certain level of talent, because of a certain impact within the community, and because of a certain understanding of what it means to be a part of this legacy. But once you're there, what are you doing to keep it up? How are you
Mm-hmm.
contributing to build it moving forward? Because it doesn't stop here. We're building for the next generation. So how are we building on the foundation that, God rest his soul, Kevin Thompson built for us, that the original Team Paul Mitchell with, Coach Steve Babcock and Pedro Xavier and Coach Conroy was actually on the original Paul Mitchell team. They started it out, and then it kept building, and KA made the huge impact that he made on the whole martial arts community. And then you have, God rest his soul, Gerald Dawson, Awesome Dawson was also part of the team. There was amazing legacies that have come through Paul Mitchell. And it's like, what mark are you going to leave to then strengthen that foundation so that the next person is afforded that opportunity to then build moving forward?
Mm-hmm. Wow. So it was 10 years from the time you earned your black belt before you were picked up on a team, or was it
Yeah, yeah, it was by the time I tested for black belt 17 turning 18 was when I tested for my Shodan. And then from there I didn't get picked up on a team until I was 27 was when Hayabusa came about on a national team, 27.
Mm-hmm.
So a little under 10 years, but it was my first tournament with Hayabusa was DC Capital Classics, which will be taking place in a few weeks now. Actually, it's always in August, with the first or second week of August, and that was my first national open tournament was Capital Classics. So it was a full circle thing, almost 10 years later, to have
Mm-hmm.
your first team competition be at the tournament where you were introduced to open sport martial arts.
Mm-hmm. Now you were discussing, your sparring, your fighting divisions.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw you perform, you're doing traditional weapons, traditional forms.
Yes, sir.
Which one were you always doing? Both or all of them, or did you kind of focus
Mm-hmm.
on sparring in the beginning or forms in the beginning? What started, and which
I
one do you prefer the most?
I've always trained all three. To this day, I still my training regimen Monday night actually on our group that it was funny because someone else all of our team members, everyone sees them do one thing, but we all do a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice. But my Monday night was a mix of my sparring drills, my calisthenics, kata. That was workout one, and then workout two Monday night was all my kobudo. So kobudo, for those that are watching, is your Japanese. It's weaponry. This
Mm-hmm.
the study of Japanese weaponry. So that was my thing. But I've always done all three. The only time that I focused solely on forms and weapons was my first year with Team Paul Mitchell. That for that first season, my focus was forms and weapons because it was, it's a performance based team. It's a team mentality where everyone plays a role. So what is it, Sam, that your role is? Well, my role is, well, I have a few different roles, but mainly is locking in, representing in the senior division, locking in those overall grands, or at least making it to that dance, and representing the organization, representing the brand. Fighting wasn't what I got picked up for, but it is something that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So now coming into second season on the team, I was carrying my gear with me actually to Chicago. And I always had my gear with me to be able to warm up if we needed it. I'm jumping in. Like, it's always prepared for battle because I'm training all the time. So it's not something foreign. But going into Chicago, I brought all my sparring gear with me. So I was like, I want to get back to sparring. I have to talk to Coach Damon. And then I ended up winning a couple of divisions, and I was like, wait, I'm about to go for a Warrior Cup. You have to be smart. So I'm like, do you want to win the Warrior Cup, or do you want to go spar? And I'm like, I'm trying to win the Warrior Cup. So let's conserve energy. Let's focus on what the job is. So then going into compete nationals at California, I was able to pull Coach Damon to the side, and I kind of said, hey, I would like to get back sparring. I've been training. Is that something that we can work towards? And he had a very simple response back to me. He said, I don't know what you've been waiting for. That was what he said. I don't know what you've been waiting for. I was like, no doubt, I have my gear in my bag, and I like put it on. Next day was sparring.
Yeah.
So and it's been a blessing to have him to be able to, have that faith in me, to understand that he loves to do everything, and at the end of the day, he's representing the brand, so you have to represent it properly, right? You have to uphold the values. But he has that faith that I'll uphold it. So I appreciate that. So thank you. And then also just to be afforded the opportunity to continue representing all three facets of martial arts, because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, my goal is with Karate from the Heart and karate, like the martial arts that I share with everybody else, is to stay as well-rounded as possible, to show that we don't have to stay within a box. You don't have to focus on only one thing. You have to sharpen all your tools because they're going to feed off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
The level of explosion that I'm developing when I'm working my sparring drills on a bag and having that resistance, that is then going to be shown when I throw a reverse punch or a lunge punch in my form. To
Mm-hmm.
be able to throw that technique and have someone who's watching see the intention behind the technique, and understand that if there was a target in front, you would have hit that target. You would have went through that target, versus throwing a punch for the sake of doing the technique. And performance wise, it looks pretty, but does it look like it would actually hurt somebody? Does it look like it would actually stop something, whatever it is that needs to get stopped? That's where you have to kind of have that full circle around things. And then when it comes to weaponry, working my kobudo, the kobudo is just like the cliches of it's an extension of you, but that is true. When you are working these techniques and understanding how to handle your bow, for example, your staff, understanding how to handle that bow, you're going to be hypersensitive to where are my lines, where's my chamber, what is my posture like, because if it's incorrect, I'm not going to be able to execute this technique. But that posture that I have when executing a first strike with my bow is going to be very similar to the posture I have when I'm doing a lunge punch. Subtle differences, but the foundation still has to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's a reason why certain weapons are taught in a particular order based on that style and that instructor's curriculum. But everything has to feed off of each other. You don't just pick something up for the sake of picking it up. You want to have a foundation, and then from there branch off.
Mm-hmm.
And
Definitely.
you asked me what's my favorite, I think, right?
Yeah. Which one is your favorite to compete in?
For competition, I would say weapons. Weapons is definitely my shining point. Originally I thought that kata would have been where I shined a little bit more just because of my attention to detail. But I feel that weapons is where I can express myself. Just a more raw self is expressed during my weapon, especially kama competition. When I'm performing with my kama, that's where that's my most comfortable weapon. I love my iku, which is what I performed with in the Super Show.
Yeah. So, I have to ask, right? So on Team Paul Mitchell or on other teams that you've been a part of, do you ever find that there's the forms competitors over here and the fighters over here, and there's more people that kind of stick to the one or the other?
There on other teams that I've been with, yeah, there has been somewhat of a divide, but I've been fortunate that all of my coaches for these teams made it a priority that everyone supports each other. And I see that most now with Team Paul Mitchell, with Coach Damon, Coach Chris, Coach Steve, Coach Jackson. Like everyone is on the same page with the level of importance behind team support, gathering around that ring, hearing familiar voices that are cheering you on, whether you are doing a form, fighting, or doing weapons. You still need that support and having those people there that are just giving you good vibes, giving
Mm-hmm.
you love while you're in that ring. Because when you're competing with the most elite athletes in the world, when it comes to this sport karate competitions that we choose to jump into, there's no room for doubt. There's no room for lack of confidence. There is no room for you to give a second guess to what you're going to do when you get in that ring. But
Mm-hmm.
there may be times that you get nervous. There's times I'm constantly nervous. US Open, before I went into the grands, I was just like, man, what are we going to do right now? What's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. Like, it was just, you have self-talk that you have to learn how to tame.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes when you have a coach there who is going to say a couple words to you in your ear that are going to push you, or you have a teammate that's going to come and just slap you on the back, massage your traps, and say, yo, let's go. Alex always does that for. I'll be on the side, and all of a sudden I just feel these two hands, boom, and just like give a quick massage, let's go. And then all of a sudden I'm ready to go. Coach Damon has this way of being like, show me something, young man, and it's like it flips the switch. Coach Chris has his way of like, yo, just show me your heart, and I'll just go and do it. Everyone has their different saying, but it's not particular because they have an affiliation or an affection towards weapons, forms, or fighting. No, it's because we're a family. Coach D is always pushing it. It's Ohana. We're here. We're one unit. We support each other. We love each other. And at the end of the day, when one of us is successful, we're all successful. And that's really what it's about. And that's where that foundation of our past leaders on the team, our eternal captain, like KA, that's what he tried to push with everybody, was just love and support and still being fierce. Just because you lead with love doesn't mean that you're soft, but
Mm-hmm.
we're pushing love, we're pushing support, but we're going to be fierce, and you go in there and you handle business.
Right. I love it. Well, I'm glad to hear that, and glad to have you hear that you're having a great experience. It's a good, good camaraderie within the team, and helping push you to the next level. We're getting pretty close on time, as I mentioned
Yes,
at the
sir.
beginning. So, before I ask you just a couple quick rapid fire questions, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd just like to share with the audience to make sure that we leave them with that information?
I think the main piece, and it's because people have probably heard it from different mouths, but not straight from me, is karate from the heart and what that means. And karate from the heart is leading with love. Karate from the heart is expressing your most true self, being as transparent as possible when you step in that ring or when you step in the dojo, is being as transparent as possible in the art that you're going to express with those who are watching or those around you. There's many times that I talk with my students at the dojo and I talk with our teammates about, the tightest bonds that we're going to develop are through sweat, blood, and tears. That's where we're going to develop those tightest bonds. And, when I'm going with my fellow competitors, when I'm going with my teammates, when I'm going with my dojo mates, brothers and sisters, if I lead with love and I express my karate from the heart and you do the same, at that point is when we're both going to elevate and we're going to experience a level of mental clarity and vibration within the dojo that is going to push our training beyond what we could have ever imagined and what we could have hoped for. So that is what karate from the heart is. It's not just about, being a nice person or loving to do karate. No, it's about expressing your most truest self in the rawest form of you in your art. So that way we then share with others, inspire others, uplift others, but for the most part is developing those bonds through martial arts.
I love it. That's great. Good stuff. Much respect for that. I'm going to
Thank you.
ask you just a couple quick rapid fire questions, quick answers, and we'll wrap things up for today. What is your most memorable win or title so far?
Um, Diamond Nationals 2022, because that was the first big win on a national scene with my brother, being able to share that with him and us think that we won the diamond ring, but then we didn't. It was just a really funny thing. So funny celebration, but it was a memorable time because that was where karate from the heart really started.
Nice. Toughest competitor?
Um, in forms, I would say Joey Castro. That's my brother. I love him, but we go back and forth and we train together also and we work and we push each other, but we understand that when we go in the ring, we give each other a quick hug and we walk to opposite ends because business has to be handled.
All right. Favorite martial artist of all time?
Oof, that's a tough one, man. So wow. Um mm. I
you
think if
you
I
can
had to
name a
pick one
couple if you got a
person.
couple.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So obviously, my sensei Errol Bennett, he was the Bronx Express. He was making a way for martial artists of color and paving roads here on the East Coast on the national level. So he is by far number one. He's somebody who I try to emulate. Then from there, moving forward, Benny the Jet is a fighter who I always looked up to for a very long time. Looking up to obviously, Coach Damus, a fighter I remember seeing for a while. KA is someone who I grew up seeing, being in this New York, New Jersey area. I was fortunate to see him at in live in person compete and have that inspire me. So I would say probably those three there. There's plenty of others, but that's all I could think of right now.
I know. Someone asked me these questions just yesterday, and I was like, man, I'm going to watch this back and say, I should have said this or I should have said that. But what you feel
Yeah,
at the moment is what you feel at the moment, right? What's your
yeah.
favorite martial arts movie of all time?
Last Dragon.
Last Dragon. Love it. All right. Well, I think those are all the questions I have for today for you, but I would love to have another conversation. As a matter of fact, when I get done having Alex on the show, I'd love to have you and Alex and Haley all together on a roundtable so we can talk about scheduling that one out. But definitely
That would
appreciate
be
your
great.
time today and sharing your
Yes, sir.
story and sharing your vision and explaining to us and sharing what karate from the heart means and how to lead with love and what you've done with your day job, as you said it, your 9 to 5 and your karate school and kind of put them together to build a stronger community and to give back to your community. I think that's amazing. So kudos to you. Great job. Keep it up. Keep killing it on the circuit. And I hope to catch you maybe next time at Compete, because that's not necessarily my backyard,
Sweet.
but a couple hours from where I'm at. So look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Of course. Well, thank you, sir. And hang out for just a minute. I'll be right back. But for everybody else, thank you for watching. Please share this video and make sure to go to YouTube and subscribe to the Master Motivation Podcast. Look forward to some excellent upcoming guests for the rest of this year and beyond 2023. We'll see where we go. Guys, go out and make it a great day. And as Sam taught us today, lead from love, teach karate from the heart, and just keep doing what you do. Thanks again, Sam.
Yes, sir. Thank you.